The roundtable conference debate about the best anime girls is a popular conversation, and while shonen is infamous for your standard cute anime girls like Hinata and Orihime, femme fatales are another popular demographic enjoyed by audiences. In fact, femme fatales have been popular across entertainment media in general. Beautiful women who use their beauty to make men walk the walk in their stead and pose a threat as a result of such abilities have been seen across several popular animes and mangas. High heels, tight dresses, fit bodies, sensual voices, and lethal desires. This video seeks to list down 20 such characters who are as beautiful as they are dangerous. But of course, different writers write different, and many tend to go with unconventional approaches for their femme fatales, sometimes making them ditzy outside their projected persona, adding more layers and depth to the character instead of just following a mold. So rest assured, we're not just going to go over conventional femme fatales, but some of the best that the format of anime has to offer. Before getting into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to our channel, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload new content. We'd be grateful to you, and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content in the future, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Boa Hancock, One Piece. Pirate Empress Boa Hancock is a former warlord of the sea and the captain of the Kuja Pirates. Hailing from the Island of Women, Amazon Lily, Hancock used to be a slave to the Celestial Dragons along with her sisters. After being freed, she grew stronger and stronger until she became a fearsome woman, renowned for being the most beautiful woman in the world and one of the most dangerous pirates alive. In fact, she was the key factor behind Luffy being able to infiltrate Impel Down, as she helped him get in by pretending to want to see Ace and cleared the route for him as much as she could. Later, she protected Luffy in Marineford, and he literally would have died in that arc had it not been for powerful characters like Hancock, Jinbei, Ivankov, and Marco, as he didn't have control over his haki. Arrogant and pompous, Hancock knows how beautiful she is. She knows the effect she has on men, and this is exaggerated by her devil fruit powers, which allows her to turn those who are enamored by her beauty and lust into stone. She can also shoot arrows to petrify others and physically attack them to do so. Because almost everyone, irrespective of gender, is susceptible to turning into stone because of how beautiful Hancock is, Luffy, being unbothered and unaffected, was a huge shock to Hancock. She eventually fell deeply in love with him and continues to harbor a strong desire to marry him. In fact, Luffy is one of the few people in the world Hancock doesn't pose a threat to. We see during the assault of the Blackbeard pirates on Amazon Lily that Hancock had managed to turn the entire crew, bar Blackbeard himself, into stone. Desperate to get his hands on her fruit, Hancock, while in the clutches of Blackbeard, confidently told him how her devil fruit abilities are only powerful because of her beauty, implying that it would be of no use to someone like Blackbeard. The threat she poses, however, isn't just because of her abilities and beauty, but also other factors, including her haki. With the warlord system having been scrapped, Hancock is currently a wanted pirate with a bounty of almost 1.7 billion berries. Lust, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. She's the only female homunculus and the second of her kind to be created by Father, the first being Pride. As a result, Lust holds a very high rank as a 300-year-old and operates as the intel gatherer and field agent for Father. Physically, she's magnetic, seductive, and drop-dead gorgeous. Lust is generally seen wearing a fitted black off-shoulder dress with long gloves, high heels, and an Ouroboros tattoo on her chest, making her the perfect representative for the sin she represents, at least visually. But Lust herself isn't someone moved or motivated by lust. She can be classified as a stereotypical femme fatale after all, and won't fall prey to the tricks she uses to take down others. She uses her siren-like appeal to effortlessly seduce her victims. She takes advantage of men's desires and uses them to get her job done, which is very useful for her specifically because she is the overall supervisor for Father's plan to turn a mistress into a transmutation circle. For example, she fakes her identity and presents herself as a modestly dressed woman known as Solaris to date Jean Havoc, an associate of Roy Mustang, and uses him to extract information about the Amestrian military. Her talent at infiltration and her ability to use men for her bidding is part of what makes her so dangerous, since it makes her an expert at collecting information. But what Lust truly lusts for is violence. she's enticed by battle and chaos. Lust has a brutal and sadistic personality as someone who's incapable of feeling guilt or remorse. She loves seeing others get tortured. She loves to see humans suffer, especially because she takes immense pride in feeling superior to humans as a homunculus. She believes that humans are far beneath her. She dismisses humanity as hopeless, dumb, predictable, and fragile. Meanwhile, she has a good bond with her fellow homunculi, especially envy and gluttony. Overall, she dislikes being referred to as a monster and prefers to be called an evolved human. In terms of powers, Lust is known as the ultimate spear, as she can extend her fingertips as much as she wants to, contorting them into lethal blades that can cut through anything, be it stone, steel, or any physically existing substance. She tends to use this ability for claw attacks or for a fencing style of fighting, but as a very intelligent homunculus, Lust prefers strategy over brute fighting and fights swiftly, targeting the vital spots of her enemies. She gets the job done quickly, and to top it off, she's almost immortal due to her possession of the Philosopher's Stone, allowing her to regenerate until all of her lives are out. But of course, this femme fatale meets her brutal end at the hands of Roy Mustang, who wanted to avenge his friend Maze Hughes, and Hughes had been killed by Lust after discovering the truth about the homunculi and Amestris being a transmutation circle. Mustang engulfs Lust into his inferno of flames and burns her to her core over and over again. And eventually, the lives from her Philosopher's Stone run out, bringing her to her demise. Makima, Chainsaw Man. Makima is probably one of the most Machiavellian and manipulative characters in modern anime. She's definitely a femme fatale, as she's not only controlling, powerful, and dangerous, but also because she uses her beauty to keep the men dancing in and around her fingers, more specifically, the protagonist Denji. If she wants you to do her bidding, you're going to do it. She's going to make sure it happens. On the outside, she looks reliable. A beautiful redhead dressed in formals who's amicable, social, calm, and sophisticated. Makima presents herself as a model of society, but there's more to her than what meets the eye, and unironically, it's her eye that gives it away. Yellow with multiple red rings, her design lets us know that something isn't right, even though she kind of saves Denji when we meet her. But that's a farce. All she wants is to control and dominate, staying true to her role as the main antagonist of Chainsaw Man. She starts off her connection with Denji by treating him like a beloved pet dog, making him bark for her. Meanwhile, Denji is enamored and in shock as he's getting attention from such a beautiful woman, especially as a man whose goal in life is to grab a pair of breasts someday. Denji eventually becomes Makima's subsidiary as he's recruited by the branch of public safety where she works as the personal devil hunter of the chief cabinet secretary throughout the saga. She keeps Denji and Aki wrapped around her fingers, giving Denji indirect kisses and even letting him touch her, but eventually we learn that she's the control devil and a member of the Four Horsemen. Her perfect facade in front of Denji starts to slip after the death of Aki Hayakawa, and we see how she not only sees others to be beneath her, but perceives them as dogs who must always obey her without hesitation. As the control devil, she embodies the fear of control and domination, and she can literally and directly control those who she considers to be lesser in rank than herself. As a result, she can brainwash anyone, making the victims lose their memories of things before they were put under her control. She can also manipulate an invisible force to manipulate the bodies of others, crushing them or doing as she pleases. But her goal throughout everything was to break the contract between Denji and Pochita, which is why she helped out Denji in the first place. As the controlled devil, she was incapable of forming meaningful relationships and desired something akin to a family. Because Pochita was a legendary chainsaw devil, Makima didn't consider him to be beneath her and, as a result, wished to have him as her family. So much so that she was okay with losing against Chainsaw Man and getting consumed by Pochita, as she would consider it to be an honor. Faye Valentine, Cowboy Bebop. Probably one of the favorites among anime femme fatales, Faye Valentine is sexy, funny, entertaining, and flawed. A former wanted bounty hunter, Faye joins the bounty hunting Bebop crew by the third episode, much to the chagrin of Jet Black and Spike Spiegel. But here's the catch. While she subtly flirts with Spike and Jet throughout the show, the two men don't really get seduced by her, especially considering the fact that they have their reservations about women. As a result, Faye's femme fatale antics really work better on others, specifically her victims. Faye is lazy, arrogant, and vain with a lot of bad habits such as being an alcoholic, constantly smoking cigarettes and cigars, forcing others to work, gambling, being violent, abrasive, and the list goes on. She has lots of debt that she's being hounded for, and instead of paying it back, she hops from one place to the next. But she always comes back home to the Bebop. And of course, she always ends up getting her way by flirting with men and seducing them to get her way. Yet, she hates being desired by them. Overall, she's really charming and funny. She's very comfortable in her sexy outfits and knows she's attractive, but doesn't desire romantic involvement. Even when we start feeling like she might be a little in love with Spike, it's unlikely that she wants proper romantic involvement with him, especially because Spike is still in love with Julia. But Faye has an emotional backstory. The 23-year-old is actually 77 years old. She was put in a cryogenic freeze after a space shuttle accident and remained in suspended animation for 54 years. Her parents had died in the accident, and she was put in cryo in the first place due to the severity of her injuries, as they had to wait for technology to advance to be able to cure her. And then, records about her life were lost due to the moon being destroyed, its subsequent rock showers causing destruction to the surface of the Earth. After over 5 decades, Faye was revived, and her ultra-long recovery had caused her to end up with immense debt that she couldn't pay off, but she had ended up with amnesia. Ultimately, she went on the run and scammed and stole for a livelihood, which caused her to get a bounty on her head. But her experience with this new life was one of betrayal, as her benefactors had left her with more debt after making false promises. This turned Faye into a scheming and conniving person with trust issues, and that became the core reason behind her femme fatale status, as it quickly became a necessity for her survival. Your forger, Spy Family. She's fatal, she's beautiful, she's strong, she has a mundane day job to keep her identity as an assassin a secret, she even has the codename Thor Princess as an assassin. Your forger ticks all of those boxes to qualify as a conventional femme fatale until you realize what a klutz she is. We are introduced to her as she married Lloyd Forger, hoping to use the marriage as a cover to continue being an assassin, and in the process, she also becomes the adoptive mother of Anya. Throughout her new life as a forger, we see her struggle with her social skills, being clumsy, being an awful cook, and basically being a personification of the phrase, "no thoughts, head empty." And yet, when Anya is in danger or when the forgers need some immediate power chops, Yor is the one handling the scene. When she plays tennis against Lloyd's colleague who's in love with her, her shot cuts through the tennis ball. She knocks a bull out. She beats up anyone trying to threaten Anya. She even goes on a date with Lloyd to keep up their married couple-in-love pretense with a bullet wound in her butt. Physically, Yor is extremely beautiful, and when it comes to fighting and assassination, she's quite graceful. She looks her most fatal and lethal in her black halter-neck-fitted outfit, its signature for the Thorn Princess. The look is elevated by her gold headband, spiky gold earrings, and her gold weapons. In her personal life, however, she's aloof and has little social skills. She became an assassin as a child to provide for herself and her brother Yuri after they were orphaned. Despite having to take a job out of necessity, Yor seems to really enjoy it and is even polite to her victims, thanking them for letting her have the honor of taking their lives. She cares about her little fake family and is very close to her brother Yuri, who wound up with a sister complex due to Yor's impact on his life. However, spending time with the Forgers has been changing Yor for the better, as she's getting more and more expressive and has grown to genuinely care for Lloyd and Anya, as seen by how protective she is of them. But Yor unintentionally has a lethal way of thinking, considering she spent most of her life as an assassin. She tries to solve problems by resorting to murder. And although she doesn't act these things out unless it's a paid job, the thought does cross her mind, as seen with her thinking of killing Fiona Frost, who tried to threaten her position as Lloyd's wife. During Anya's entrance at Eden Academy, Yor also wished to assassinate a parent to secure a spot for Anya. However, Yor knows not to act on these instincts, controlling her assassin-like tendencies, and despite her lacking cooking skills, experience with cleaning up blood has allowed her to keep the Forger household squeaky clean. Her unusual personality contrasts against her superhuman physical abilities, such as inhuman strength, speed, endurance, and even poison tolerance, to make Yor a very unique character across anime. Tomi. Junji Ito's iconic horror heroine, Tomi Kawakami, is the antagonistic protagonist of Tomi. Renowned for her siren-like beauty, Tomi was highly desired by everyone. She was called impossibly beautiful. Even today, social media is full of beauty tricks and techniques for hairstyling and makeup to help people achieve the Tomi look with the characteristic beauty mark under her left eye, but Tomi is far from being a good girl. Antagonistic, manipulative, and selfish, Tomi would constantly seduce men for her personal reasons. She used to be the girl who was liked by the guys in her class and disliked by the other girls. At some point, she had an intimate relationship with her teacher who she genuinely loved, but she soon passed away. However, Tomi was no ordinary girl. While her looks drove men into their obsession to the point that they would chop her into pieces, she would always regenerate, arising from even the smallest piece of herself. Each piece could grow into a full Tomi, allowing her to create clones of herself. When under stress, she could split without injury, as seen from the popular image of Tomi growing a second head. If her organs are implanted into someone, the person will eventually lose their sense of self as Tomi will take over. Following her resurrection after her first death, she became the hedonistic Tomi we know today. She started seeing men as tools. Her ego grew more and more, and she started to believe that she was the most beautiful woman ever. Everyone else was beneath her. This was possibly projection, as she wasn't a regular human being. Naturally, she would go into a murderous rage if someone called her a monster, but she wasn't invincible. Tomi's body parts could be burnt down and put in acid to kill her before she could begin to regenerate. So, when she went to war against her clones, the Tomis tried to kill each other by seducing men and getting them to burn down the copies, as her ego had led her to create a hierarchy between her own kind, seeing some as lesser. Each Tomi clone was born to ensnare a man and use him as her tool, but Tomi isn't just the femme fatale, but also a victim. The men would fall in love, grow obsessed with her, and then go mad, leading to the bit where she's chopped up into pieces due to their murderous desire. This is Tomi's beauty making her the victim, but she's also the perpetrator because she causes it and bounces back by regenerating with several clones. The way Tomi drives them into madness is also not some special trickery. She's just herself and the men do the rest. In fact, most of her kill count is just her getting men to do the job for her. Ireina Jelovic, Assassination Classroom. Ireina was a Russian hitwoman who was assigned to assassinate Koro-sensei in Assassination Classroom. As a result, she became the English teacher of Class 3E at Kunigigaoka Junior High School. As a Serbian and Slavic woman, she was portrayed to be fair-skinned and blue-eyed with blonde hair and a curvy figure. She would often dress in a sensual manner, exposing her chest for the most part, driving her male students wild. Initially, Ireina showed off a cruel and arrogant demeanor, earning the name Bitch Sensei from her students. She is also confident, talented, and highly capable as an assassin with myriad skills. She is a master infiltrator, often using her charm to distract those in her way and passing through tight security. She also has an attack called the Kiss of Death, via which she French kisses her opponent to secure the win. Over time, we get to see more of her kinder side, as she is revealed to be childish with poor social skills. She's surprisingly humble and ends up falling in love with Tadomi Karasuma, who is the only man who's not enthralled by her sex appeal. Her various seduction tricks don't work with him either, but they do end up getting married in the future. Ezdeath, Akame ga Kill. A woman who believes in survival of the fittest, Ezdeath is the sadistic antagonist of Akame ga Kill and a high-ranking general of the Empire. Death in her name, she loves to fight, torture her victims, and get rid of anyone that gets in her way. Her goals aside, she loves bloodshed in general, to the point that she's willing to start a war herself if the Empire falls. And anyone who dies is simply too weak to survive, too weak to live in a world she believes only belongs to the strong. Despite seeing people as less and finding pleasure in causing them pain, Ezdeath is a charismatic leader who cares for her subordinates and inspires them. But if she needs to sacrifice them and even her family for the sake of victory, she'll do so with no remorse. In the show, the Empire is opposed by the Revolutionary Army, particularly the effective assassination unit known as the Night Raid that the protagonist, Tatsumi, is a part of. Because of this faction, Ezdeath eventually becomes the leader of a special unit squad created to neutralize the Night Raid, known as the Jaegers. Like everyone on this list, Ezdeath is an attractive woman. The anime portrays her with exaggeratedly large breasts, creating a contrast between her sadistic nature, her sexualized body, and her military outfit. Despite everything, Ezdeath's subordinates were extremely loyal to her, and even though she saw people as beneath her, she always respected strong opponents, as seen with her appreciation for Susanoo. But Ezdeath was also madly in love with Tatsumi ever since she saw his victory smiles in a tournament held by her. She claims to burn with the passion to have him and believes he's the only man worthy of being called a man. Eventually, he was made to be a part of the Jaegers, but his escape made her more desperate for him, and she decided to force all of her feelings for him when they crossed paths again. She retained her feelings for him after he joined the Night Raid, even though they were mortal enemies. Later, Ezdeath gets defeated by Akame in battle, and she freezes herself to make her body shatter. As a result, no corpse is left behind. She passes away with no regrets for committing her heinous and murderous acts, but she is regretful of not being able to make Tatsumi love her. Rize Kamashiro, Tokyo Ghoul. Rize is one of the most important characters in Tokyo Ghoul and the one who started it all for protagonist Ken Kaneki. She used to be notorious for being a binge eater, not just in her own ward, but in the wards of other ghouls too. Eventually, Kaneki became her victim, and we got to see how Rize actually got her dinner ready. She didn't mindlessly hunt down humans like an animal, but she tricked Kaneki into going on a date with her, as she had understood that he had a crush on her. Well, on the way back, she took him to a dingy alley to eat him, but unfortunately for her, they got caught up in an accident, after which Rize's ghoul organ, known as a kakuo, was transplanted into Kaneki, making him part human and part ghoul. Contrary to popular belief, she didn't die but was captured to be harvested, and her presence lingered within Kaneki, making its appearance from time to time during times of distress. We see it for the first time during Jason's torture of Kaneki, but Rize is physically never sexualized, although she is seemingly quite pretty. This helps her catch her prey by showing her shy and pretty girl next door facade and then pouncing on them for her feast. What makes her more dangerous is that she does this just for the sake of it. She's just that bored and hungry and isn't trying to cause a scene in particular. In a way, she's extremely animalistic. When Kaneki was being tortured, Rize's presence in his mind made him revisit his childhood memories and manipulated him into accepting his nature as a being who eats humans. This is soon followed by Kaneki breaking loose and cannibalizing Jason. Base, Hunter x Hunter. Base was one of the bodyguards of the spoiled rich daughter of the Nostrade family, Neon Nostrade, appearing during the York New City arc. The Hunter had striking features and her moveset revolving around her beauty. During the bodyguard examination that Kurapika and Base were a part of, with 3 others, it was revealed that one of them was an infiltrator. The mole was revealed to be Squala. Base asked him what orders he was given, and he refused to admit anything, even at the risk of torture. To this, Base showed off her instant lover ability, making Squala fall for her immediately with a kiss. She then revealed she was a manipulator type and could turn anyone into her slave for 3 hours just by kissing them, attested to by Squala wanting her to step on him like a dominatrix. Base was so excited by this that she recorded his actions while using Squala as her slave. During the auction, she was killed by Shizuku from the Phantom Troop as she smashed the back of Base's head and then cleaned up her corpse by inhaling it with her vacuum cleaner Blinky. Kurumi Tokisaki, Date A Live. Like Rize, Kurumi is another character and a spirit who appears to be a perfect girl next door with a polite demeanor. The protagonist, Shido Itsuka, was completely in love with her initially and wanted to save the spirit kind who belonged to a different dimension. She is the 3rd spirit we meet in the show, and while Shido is in love with her, she's obsessed with his power and wants to devour him to get his spirit mana, as it will allow her to go back in time by 3 decades and kill the people whose actions caused the spacequake and created spirits in the first place. Despite the initially nice impression, Kurumi is malicious, evil, and considered to be the worst and most dangerous spirit ever due to her bloodthirst and lust for killing. She's so brutal that it caused Shido's motivation of saving spirits to waver, as he knew someone like her was beyond saving. Visually, she's highly renowned for her eye being a clock, which is part of her power, and tied to Kurumi using humans as a food source to restore her time. While her methods are sadistic, Kurumi's motive ultimately is beneficial, as it will cause the spacequake to reverse, saving millions. The people she murders are also borderline criminals and not innocent people, but she's still dangerous and hates being called a good person. As a human, she used to have a strong sense of justice and wished to help out those in need, but as a spirit, Kurumi is dangerous. Fujiko Mina, Lupin III. Perhaps the most iconic femme fatale in all of anime, the genius burglar Fujiko Mina is the first of her kind in this format. This smart, seductive, and beautiful woman shares a complicated relationship with the titular Lupin, sometimes acting as his ally and other times as his rival. This push and pull results in Lupin falling head over heels in love with her, and Fujiko loves the attention and the drama, and she never wastes an opportunity to use Lupin's or other men's desire for her to take advantage of them and get her hands closer to the treasures that she desires. She evokes mystery and confusion, making her even more charming in the eyes of men and her audience alike. Despite getting men to do her jobs for her, she never shares her prize. Her skill as a marksman and a martial artist makes her even more dangerous. Fujiko only cares about her loot, often making deals with Lupin's enemy, Koichi Zenigata. Naturally, Lupin's friends don't trust her, but they also can't do anything about it because of Lupin's love for her. The character was created for the show to fill a Bond girl-style role, but she quickly got promoted to a more present character with bigger shoes to fill than just eye candy. She's also seen in a variety of outfits, unlike other characters who have their signature clothing, and she's even been seen in a catsuit, which is just the most media-appropriate outfit for a sexy cat burglar. Fujiko operates by pairing up with Lupin and then double-crossing his gang in a heist to get her treasure. When questioned about her actions, she claims that she simply has more needs than the average woman, which is both literal in this case and a sexual innuendo. She might not be implying anything sexual, but that phrase was definitely crafted to be a double entendre. However, if Fujiko is part of Lupin's gang for a heist, she doesn't double-cross them. And Lupin always forgives her betrayals, to the point that when she lost her memory, he told her that he was looking forward to them. Fujiko is also really cool, with her outfits and her hobbies such as disco dancing and horseback riding, with her preferences such as kisuru, fine wine, champagne, and cocktails, and of course, the wealthy men she uses for their money. C2 Code Geass. The alluring and mysterious green-haired girl, C2, is an untraditional femme fatale. She used to be a regular human until she got the power of the Geass, and eventually ended up getting the code, allowing her to not just become immortal, but to pass the power of the Geass to others, which is how Lelouch ends up getting it. She used to be a leader of the Geass Order until she disappeared because of the death of Lelouch's mother, Marianne. She was also the leader of the Order of the Black Knights, at least until she returned Lelouch's memories of being a prince, his identity as Zero, and his sister Nunnally, all of which had been altered by his father, Charles. C2 is known by her signature long green hair, love for Pizza Hut, penchant for collecting Cheese Kun merch, aloof behavior, and eventually love for Lelouch. Of course, she's very attractive, but she's not the manipulative, seductive type. Instead, her fatality comes from her having the code and assisting Lelouch in his mission. Due to her uncertain past and the danger she poses as the person who can give the power of the Geass, C2 is a threat, and a beautiful one at that. Throughout everything, she had a contract with Lelouch. In exchange for the power of the Geass, Lelouch would have to grant one wish of hers, and he would have the ability to do so once his Geass power would reach the last stage. As she is immortal, she wanted Lelouch to take her life and basically give her the much-needed release. But ultimately, he chooses against it, as he knows that her true desire is to be loved, especially as a result of her hard life where she was experimented on by Britannia. For the longest time, C2 had a sense of authority until she lost her memories, after which she regresses to her personality from hundreds of years ago. She loses the threat factor that had made her such a fantastic partner to Lelouch. Later, after Lelouch sacrifices himself in Zero Requiem, C2 brings him back. Ohana Bleach. While still a femme fatale, this character isn't your average badass woman. She's the manifested spirit of Shunsui Kyoraku's Zanpakuto, Katen Kyokutsu, or at least one half of it. Her original name is Katen, but Shunsui affectionately calls her Ohana. She's a tall woman with a black eye patch covering her right eye and a red ribbon around her neck. Meanwhile, the low-cut neckline of her dress exposes her chest. As the manifested spirit of Shunsui's Zanpakuto, the Soul Reaper is her master. Their relationship has romantic overtones, although it's not like they're lovers. He has his perversions for her, and she can be very mean to him, even when he's injured, as she insinuates that it's due to him wearing the clothing of a different woman. For context, this other woman is Senjumaru, who is the Great Weave Guard and creates the clothing for the Soul Reapers. She shows her distaste towards Shunsui, only calling her when he feels like it, the call being his Bonkai. And yet, it can be difficult to understand why she's a femme fatale because she's sworn to Shunsui and not the other way around. The answer lies in his Bonkai, namely Katen Kyokotsu, Karamatsu Shinju. The Bonkai is a theater play that puts the caster's victim into a story of tragedy that ultimately leads to the person's demise, not just in any way, but via suicide. In this play, there are 4 acts. In the first act, the wounds between Shunsui and his opponent get shared, so in this case, his victim acquires his wounds. Then, the person experiences an incurable disease, and within the context of the play, the disease symbolizes the shame felt by the man for hurting his lover. In the third act, both Shunsui and his opponent drown in an abyss and watch one another struggle, symbolizing an acceptance of their fates and drowning in despair. And finally, in the fourth act, Shunsui wraps a thread around the throat of his opponent and cuts off his head. This final blow is originally his Zanpakuto beheading him, and Ohana is the one who is the spiritual manifestation of this Bankai. This death, well inflicted, is actually suicide within the theater play, and Ohana is the one who drives Shunsui's opponent into committing suicide in this story. Docky, Demon Slayer. The upper rank 6, or at least half of it, Docky had an unfortunate and poverty-stricken upbringing in and around the entertainment district. At some point, she and her brother Gyotaro were turned into a demon by Doma. Over time, she became an oiran in the entertainment district, explaining very well why she qualifies as a femme fatale. Deadly and beautiful, she's killed 7 Hashiras throughout her life, while access to customers as a worker at a brothel has allowed her to have many kills and victims, making her stronger and stronger over time. She even acquired a high rank among the courtesans and mistreated the workers. She saw unattractive people as people who were beneath her and didn't even wish to be touched by them. Meanwhile, she was a curvaceous and beautiful woman, her beauty being ever present since she was a kid. Her outfit shows off her cleavage and thighs, while the obi sash around her waist is part of her blood demon art, and she uses it as a slashing weapon. But Docky herself is not lustful or someone who uses her appeal against the primary characters. She has just used her beauty on other humans to eventually eat them. Sirene, Devilman Crybaby. Sirene is constantly shown as a hypersexual character in Devilman Crybaby. She was the former lover of Amon, aka the devil who resided within the protagonist Akira Fudo. But Amon had been suppressed by Akira's will, and Sirene was desperate to bring him back. When she realized that her former lover was in the human realm and that she had found him, she grew excited with passion and aggressively pleasured herself to the thought of reuniting with him. Meanwhile, the demon named Kame helped her through everything while being in love with her, knowing fully well that her heart belonged to Amon. She was stunning with a voluptuous figure and a cold face, and of course, her sexuality was enhanced by her risque outfit choices and high heels. When Sirene would be asked about what she would do if Amon failed to recognize her, the former consort would resort to vulgarity, claiming how she would suck Akira off to allow Amon to gain control over the body. She was extremely perverted, especially when it came to Amon. At some point, she meets Akira in the red light district and takes him in as her customer to get physically intimate with him and bring back Amon. In the process, she turned into her demonic avian form, and there was ultimately a battle between Akira and Sirene. To nail her victory, she fused with Kame for a final strike, but they passed away midway through their battle. Carmela, Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, Castlevania. Carmela, or Countess Carmela Elizabeth Bathory, appears as a character in both Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust as well as Castlevania. A beautiful and fatal female vampire, both characters are based on the same 19th century Gothic novella, which actually predates Bram Stoker's Dracula. In Bloodlust, Carmela is a noblewoman, like the other vampires, and is also the primary antagonist. She used to be the lover of the sacred ancestor who is insinuated to be Dracula, and within the events is deceased. But the vampire queen desires to be reawakened. She's beautiful, dressed in all red and adorned in gold, exposing her sensual body with the neckline of her dress dropping down to just below her navel. During her 5,000-year reign, she lived life as a cruel, torturous, and bloodthirsty woman, which led to her being known as the Bloody Countess. She caused pain to others and was ultimately impaled by the sacred ancestor, who was sickened by her bloodlust and vanity, bringing her tyranny to an end. Betrayed by her lover, her spirit remained chained to the castle for centuries, desperate to return to life. And she found the chance with Charlotte and Meyer Link having a forbidden romance as a human and a vampire respectively. She ends up using Charlotte's blood to begin her resurrection, but after an altercation with Vampire Hunter D, the latter's symbiotic left hand sucked in the Bloody Countess's soul before she could finish her rematerialization. Despite being in a nerfed state, Carmela was powerful and could use her original powers as a vampire, even in spirit form, to to the point that she could turn humans by giving them the kiss of nobility. Meanwhile, the Carmela we meet in Castlevania, albeit gorgeous, is not a femme fatale. She's a master manipulator and quite cunning as one of Dracula's most powerful generals. Slan Berserk. The only female member of the God Hand, the antagonist Slan is known as the Goddess of the Flame by a pagan cult founded by, well, her. Her life from the time she was human remains unknown, but she's had quite an impact upon humanity, specifically in the case of the cult, with a group of humans having cannibalistic pagan rituals in her honor without knowing that she's a God Hand member. Slan's actions reflect a brutal personality. She is referred to Femto, formerly Griffith's assault on Casca, as something that's beautiful, something that touches her. She even sheds a tear. She imparts revelations to the prophet of her cult, telling him how the barbarians will be repelled by the Falcon and the people will become one nation. Meanwhile, the cult takes drugs to open their minds to futuristic visions. Slan is also hypersexual, and her desires extend to Guts as she lusts after him. She is excited by his rage and anguish from his struggles in the post-eclipse world and wants him to reincarnate as a demon by sacrificing himself. In fact, her heart was touched by Guts' violent reaction to Femto assaulting Casca. Later, she expresses awe when she witnesses Guts fight Femto despite his multiple injuries, desperate to have him become part of the God Hand as well. During the Millennium Falcon arc, she even kisses Guts after he impales her on his sword, which obviously ends up arousing her, prompting her to steal a kiss from him before dematerializing completely. Balikica. Black Lagoon. Sofia Pavlovna Irinovskaya, popularly known as Balikica in Black Lagoon, is the boss of the Thai branch of Hotel Moscow, which is a global crime syndicate for the Russian mafia. As you can tell by her name, she's a Slavic Russian woman and, true to the stereotypes, is depicted as an extremely beautiful and strong woman. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, and a fantastic body, definitely a looker. But she's also scarred with burn marks across her neck, legs, chest, and the right side of her face. This has led to several people referring to her as Fry Face. Her design gets an extra oomph thanks to her thin cigar. Balikica was always hell-bent on becoming a powerful person since she was a kid, as her father had presumably been condemned by the USSR, so she wished to restore her family's honor and ended up joining the Soviet airborne forces. During this time, she became an exemplary sniper and marksman, being deployed for a hellish battle in Afghanistan. Around this time, she was captured and tortured by the Mujahideen in Afghanistan for over a month, leading to her acquiring various scars. Her life spent in such situations while acquiring power positions as a highly capable and beautiful woman has made her a femme fatale for generations. And while she can be wholesome and endearing from time to time, she can seduce the living daylights out of anything and ensures that those who need to get killed. Her leadership, stemming from her time in Afghanistan, has resulted in her men looking up to her. She's also ruthless as a mafia leader, focused on only trust and profit. She will go to absolutely any length to get what she wants, eliminating those who stand in her way. She desires to bring this destruction to the point that she has no problems about even killing children, at least not anymore after having to do so in Afghanistan. At present, her entire personal military force, that is the Vysotniki, are members of the Soviet airborne force from her time in Afghanistan. This gives the Russian mafia group she runs a serious advantage over their competitors. All in all, she's just a cut above the rest. Michiko Melandro. Michiko to Hachin. Michiko is the co-protagonist of her series alongside Hannah Hachin Morenos. She grew up as a troubled kid in an orphanage and eventually became a criminal, specifically a thief. She's designed to represent a sexy Afro-Brazilian woman, popular fashion seen across Latin culture, such as fitted outfits, chola lips, gold hoops, and statement jewelry. She's very proud of her beauty and body, as seen by her fashion choices, and she's not afraid to use her sex appeal to get her way. She became a caretaker in the orphanage where she grew up with her best friend Atsuko Jackson. After a track record of stealing, she left the orphanage while still a teenager. Eventually, she met her future boyfriend Hiroshi Morenos. A few years later, Michiko got arrested by none other than Atsuko herself and was continuously taunted there by her former friend. Around this time, she learned about Hiroshi having survived his accident and the fact that not only had he moved on, but he also had a daughter named Hannah. Michiko eventually escaped prison to track down Hannah, hoping to find Hiroshi. With several complications in Hannah's life, Michiko was able to rescue Hana from her foster family and escape with her. Throughout everything, Michiko is presented as a wild and flashy woman. However, this also comes with some drawbacks. Her wildness can be exciting for viewers, but it's the same thing that makes her childish and loud. She always needs to be the center of attention and hates it when things don't go her way. She once heckled a dancer at the strip club due to jealousy. She's competitive and abrasive and sometimes intentionally tactless. However, she is a very good human being, as seen from her growing up to take care of the children in the orphanage and stealing not for selfish reasons, but to get them presents. Marvelous verdict! Femme fatales are interesting because they challenge the traditional notion of associating a beautiful woman with one who needs saving. Throughout media, we see strong female characters written in a masculine manner, and the femme fatale trope challenges that in a way. These confident and independent characters are enjoyed by people regardless of their genders. Some like how they look, some like how they use their beauty to get their way, and some like that they're fully fleshed out and developed characters. And with the progression of media and time, we see twists to the trope with characters such as Your Forger, keeping things more interesting instead of sticking to age-old tropes that, when overdone, can make things a little boring. Thank goodness we've got femme fatales to spice things up. And with that, today's video comes to an end. Did you enjoy it? Let us know your favorite femme fatale in the comments down below, especially if we missed them in this list. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.